Since the moment you were old enough to walk and talk, society began feeding you the same message on repeat. Hard work is everything. If you want to be seen as worthy, you must prove it through constant effort. And so, you start running. First, in school, chasing grades, then in your career, chasing promotions. In relationships, chasing approval. The race never ends, because the goalposts keep moving. Just when you think you've done enough, there's always more. Work harder, move faster, achieve bigger. And no one tells you where the finish line is, because there isn't one. The burnout society keeps you running in circles, like a hamster in a wheel, convinced that if you just work a little harder, if you just push a little more, you'll finally arrive. But here's the cruel truth. You never arrive. Because a society obsessed with productivity doesn't care about your limits. It doesn't care if you're tired, broken, or burned out. It only cares about what it can take from you. And so you keep going, believing that your worth is tied to your work, that if you stop, even for a second, you'll fall behind. But deep down, there's a voice, faint at first, but growing louder, telling you something isn't right. You're not lazy. You're trapped in a system that demands too much and gives too little in return. Every time you feel that heavy, crushing exhaustion, the kind that makes even the simplest task feel impossible, you hear the same accusation, lazy. They label you with that word because it's easier than looking at the real problem. But you know the truth, even if you don't say it out loud. You're not lazy. You're carrying a weight no one can see. The weight of endless pressure, of constant expectations, of a world that never lets you rest. You wake up already feeling behind. You go to bed with your mind racing, thinking of everything you didn't finish. And in between, you pour out your energy, your time, your heart, and still feel like it's not enough. The burnout society has convinced you that this is normal, that if you can't keep up, you're the problem. But you are not the problem. The system is. The endless pressure to be good enough, fast enough, successful enough. That's what's draining you. And the cruelest part, the more burned out you feel, the more you blame yourself. You don't see the invisible chains. You only see your own struggle and think, I must be failing. But you're not failing. You're human. And you're caught in a culture that treats humans like machines. Burnout doesn't come from working hard once in a while. It comes from feeling like you can never stop. Like no matter what you achieve, it's never enough. Like no matter how much you give, there's always more demanded of you. The burnout society doesn't let you breathe. It sets impossible standards, then shames you when you can't meet them. It keeps you chasing some perfect version of success that doesn't even exist. And you fall into the trap because you're re-taught to believe that your value comes from your output, that the more you do, the more you're worth. But deep down, you know this isn't right. Because no matter how much you accomplish, it never feels like enough. There's always another task, another goal, another challenge waiting. And so you keep pushing, even when you're exhausted, even when your body and mind are begging you to stop. Because stopping feels dangerous. Stopping feels like failure. But here's the truth. Burnout isn't a sign that you're weak. It's a sign that you've been strong for too long, that you've been carrying more than anyone should, and that it has time to stop blaming yourself and start questioning the system that put you here. They tell you to rest, but they don't really mean it. They tell you to take care of yourself, but the moment you do, they call you lazy, unmotivated, selfish. The burnout society talks about balance, but only as long as you keep producing. You take a break, but you feel guilty. You slow down, but you feel like you're falling behind. And so you push yourself harder, ignoring the headaches, the fatigue, the sleepless nights, until your body can't take it anymore. Until your mind starts to go numb. Until the things you once loved feel like chores, and the dreams you once had feel impossible. And still, you're called lazy, but you know better. This isn't laziness. This is survival. You're doing everything you can to stay afloat in a world that demands too much. A world that gives you no time to breathe, no space to heal. And the saddest part, you've started to believe the lie. You've started to think maybe it is your fault. Maybe you're not trying hard enough. But the truth? You've tried harder than anyone should have to, and it's not you who needs fixing. It's the burnout society that needs to change. What makes burnout so dangerous is how invisible it is. On the outside, everything looks fine. You're still showing up, still getting things done, still keeping it together. But inside, you're empty, numb, drained. The burnout society counts on this. It wants you to keep going, even when you're running on fumes. It teaches you to ignore the warning signs, the fatigue, the anxiety, the loss of joy, and just keep pushing. Because the moment you stop, the moment you say enough, the machine loses a worker. And the machine can't have that. So it convinces you that burnout is normal, that everyone feels this way, that it's just part of being an adult, part of being successful. But it's not. Burnout isn't normal. It's a sign that something is deeply wrong. Not with you, but with the system you're stuck in. The system that values profit over people. The system that demands constant productivity, but gives nothing back. You are not lazy. You are not weak. You are a victim of a culture that pushes you past your limits, then blames you for breaking. And the first step to healing is seeing this truth clearly and refusing to carry the blame any longer. We live in a world that glorifies overwork, that celebrates those who sacrifice sleep, skip meals, and grind themselves into the ground. You hear it everywhere. The hustle culture slogans, the stories of people who made it by working 20-hour days, the endless praise for those who burn the candle at both ends. But Nietzsche, he would ask, at what cost? At what cost do we trade our peace, our health, our humanity for this illusion of success? The burnout society turns people into machines, and machines don't feel. Machines don't need rest, don't dream, don't hope, they just function. And what happens to machines when they're pushed too hard for too long? They break. And that's what's happening to millions of us. We are breaking under the weight of impossible expectations. But we're taught to see this as noble. We're told that if we're exhausted, if we're on the verge of collapse, it means we're doing something right. But deep down, you know this isn't true, because you can feel the price you're paying. The sleepless nights, the anxiety that won't go away, the joy that slips further out of reach every day. The burnout society doesn't want you to question this, but Nietzsche wanted you to, because real success isn't found in overwork. It's found in the courage to live fully, not just function. And then there's the lie about motivation. The burnout society tells you that if you're tired, if you can't bring yourself to work harder, it's because you lack discipline, that you just need to try more, push more, force yourself. But what they don't want you to see is the real reason, that your body, your mind, your soul are begging you to stop. That burnout doesn't happen because you're weak. It happens because you've been too strong for too long. You've carried too much, said yes too often, ignored your limits for too many days in a row. And now your whole being is trying to protect you, the only way it knows how. By slowing you down, by pulling the brakes, by making it impossible to keep pushing. But instead of listening, you blame yourself. You tell yourself you're lazy, when the truth is, you're in survival mode. You're redoing everything you can just to stay standing in a world that demands more and more without ever asking if you're okay. Nietzsche would tell you to listen to that voice inside, the one that is telling you to stop, to rest, to breathe, because that voice is the one thing the burnout society can't control, and it's the voice that can save you. You've been told that rest is a reward. That fun is something you earn after you've achieved enough, after you've proven yourself. But here's the truth. In the burnout society, there is no enough. No matter how much you do, there's always more waiting. And so, rest becomes impossible. Because every time you try to slow down, that voice in your head, the one society planted there whispers that you're falling behind, that you're wasting time, that you're failing, and so you push harder, run faster, trying to escape the fear of being seen as lazy. But the faster you run, the more lost you feel. And the truth is, rest isn't laziness. Rest is resistance. Fun isn't a distraction. Fun is rebellion. In a world that wants to turn you into a machine, choosing joy is a radical act. Nietzsche would have told you that the people who truly live are the ones who dare to rest, to play, to enjoy, even when the world tells them not to. Because that's what it means to be free, to choose yourself over the endless demands of a system that will never be satisfied. Look around you. Really look. How many people do you know who are exhausted, numb, disconnected? How many are just going through the motions, chasing success, but feeling empty inside? We've come to see this as normal. We've come to believe that if you're not burned out, you're not trying hard enough. But that's not normal. That's not healthy. That's a silent epidemic. One that robs people of their joy, their creativity, their spark. And the first step to healing is seeing this clearly. Burnout isn't a personal flaw. It's not a sign that you're lazy, or weak, or broken. It's a symptom of a culture that demands too much and gives too little. It's what happens when people are treated like machines, when rest is seen as weakness, when worth is measured in output. Nietzsche saw this coming. He saw that a world obsessed with work and achievement would leave people hollow inside, and he challenged us to wake up, to see the trap, to choose a different way. Because once you see burnout for what it really is, you can begin to break free. Burnout feeds on shame. That's its fuel. Every time you feel tired and blame yourself, every time you fall behind and call yourself lazy, you're feeding the cycle. Because the burnout society wants you to think you're the problem. It wants you to believe that if you're struggling, it's because you're not trying hard enough. That way, you'll keep pushing, keep sacrificing, keep giving more, even when you have nothing left to give. But Nietzsche taught that shame is how systems of control stay in power. Shame keeps you obedient. It keeps you small. It keeps you running on empty, too distracted by guilt to ever question the system that's draining you. But what if you stopped feeling ashamed? What if you stopped blaming yourself for being human in a world that wants you to be a machine? What if instead you saw your exhaustion, your frustration, your burnout as the proof that you've been fighting a battle no one was ever meant to win? That's the moment you stop feeding the cycle. That's the moment you start reclaiming your power, and that's the moment you begin to heal. You were not born to be a cog in someone else's machine, but that's what the burnout society trains you to become. From the moment you start school, the system teaches you that your value comes from what you produce, from how many hours you work, how many tasks you complete, how much you can give. And so, bit by bit, it strips away your humanity. It teaches you to ignore your feelings, your needs, your dreams, and to focus only on output. But here, that's what they don't tell you. The more you define yourself by what you do, the more you lose sight of who you are. You weren't born to spend your life chasing deadlines. You weren't born to measure your worth in to-do lists and milestones. You were born to live, to feel, to create, to love, to experience the world fully, not just function within it. But the burnout society doesn't want you to remember that. It wants you to keep your head down, keep grinding, keep proving yourself, until you're too exhausted to question the system that trapped you. Nietzsche would tell you to stop, to look up, to remember that your life is yours, and that no amount of productivity can replace the joy of truly being alive. And here's the most dangerous part. Over time, you start to believe the lie. You start to believe that if you're not constantly achieving, you're failing. That if you rest, you're wasting your life. That if you slow down, you'll fall behind and never catch up. The burnout society whispers this in your ear every day until its voice becomes your own. And so you keep pushing, keep hustling, keep sacrificing, even as your body breaks down, even as your heart grows heavy, even as your dreams start to fade. But deep inside, there's still a part of you that knows the truth. A part of you that remembers what it felt like to live without guilt, without pressure, without the constant need to prove yourself. That part of you is still there. It's waiting for you to stop running long enough to hear it. Nietzsche believed that true strength isn't found in endless striving. It's found in the courage to listen to your soul, to trust your inner voice, even when the world tells you to ignore it. And that's the strength a burnout society fears most. Because once you start listening, you can no longer be controlled. The burnout society is clever. It hides the truth from you by making you think that you're the problem. That if you're tired, it's because you lack willpower. That if you're overwhelmed, it's because you didn't plan well enough. That if you're burned out, it's because you're not strong enough to handle the pressure. But all of that is a lie. The real problem isn't you. The real problem is a culture that demands too much and gives too little. A culture that takes your energy, your time, your passion, and offers nothing but exhaustion in return. And the cruelest trick of all, it makes you blame yourself for breaking under the weight of its impossible demands. Nietzsche saw this for what it was. A system of control that keeps you so busy blaming yourself that you never have time to question the world around you. But what if you did? What if, instead of asking what's wrong with me, you started asking what's wrong with this system? That's when everything begins to change. That's when you stop feeling ashamed. That's when you start taking your power back. And that's when you begin to break free from the trap of burnout. Real freedom begins when you stop measuring your worth by how much you produce. When you stop letting the world define you by your output. When you start listening to your body, your heart, your soul, and honoring what they tell you. The burnout society wants you to believe that rest is weakness, that joy is a distraction, that if you're not constantly striving, you're falling behind. But Nietzsche would tell you the opposite. He would tell you that real strength comes not from overwork, but from living in alignment with your truth, from refusing to betray yourself just to meet the world's impossible expectations, from daring to slow down, to breathe, to choose peace over hustle, presence over performance, joy over exhaustion, because when you do that, you reclaim your humanity. And no system, no society, no culture can take that away from you. That's the kind of freedom that can't be bought, can't be given, can only be chosen by you. You are not lazy. You are tired of living in a system that treats you like a machine, a system that rewards your sacrifice but never gives you space to heal. The burnout society wants you to keep blaming yourself, to keep pushing yourself harder, to keep running until there's nothing left. But you don't have to play that game anymore. The moment you stop, the moment you see the trap for what it is, that S, the moment you start to break free. Nietzsche didn't want you to suffer for the sake of suffering. He wanted you to wake up, to see the chains that have been placed on you, to realize that the only way to win is to step out of the race entirely. Because true freedom isn't found at the finish line. It is found the moment you choose yourself over the demands of a world that will never be satisfied. And that choice, that's yours to make. And when you make it, you will discover that the life you've been chasing has been waiting for you all along.